Number 1, exercise 22. Have you written your letters to your friends today? Now, just reading that, you would think that maybe when you say you, you're referring to one person, singular. However, if you read the next question, which is linked, so this is the question, so the person answers, or the people answer, and they say, yes, we have written them and put them on the big table. So the fact that they say we have indicates that we're talking about plural people. So you're asking question to to number of individuals, and we can assume it's more 3 or more based on the context, based on the second question. So when you say have you written, so you can say hal or a. So just say hal. Have you written? So we said the plural is katabtum. Katabtum. Now the fact that the verb has been mentioned, there can't be another subject afterwards, right? So there can't be another nominative word. That's to bear in mind. Your letters. So letters is plural. Singular is maktubun. Plural is makatibu. Makatibu, which is normally, just to remind you, a diptode. Makti. Makti. Is it boo? It can't be boo because subject is antum, hidden in katabtum. Only the subject is nominative in a verbal sentence. So we are left was makatibak, your letters. That's the object then. So what's the object? What is always accusative, so it gets a fatha, makatiba. And then you, we're referring to more than one people, so it's going to be makatibukum, more than 2 people, sorry. Have you written your letters to your friends? So we can say, for example, ila or li. So if you just say li here, for example, li, your friends, again is plural. Again, mudaf and mudaf lahi, friends in mudaf, and yours is mudaf lahi. So it's going to be li asdiqa, kum again, because it's plural. Yastiqaikum al-yawma, today. Okay, so as I mentioned before, when a noun comes attached to a pronoun, it's always, the noun is always mudaf and the attached pronoun is mudaf ilayhi. Okay. Then next is, yes, we have written. So how do you say we written? And it's katabna. So we can write katabna. So yes in Arabic is now. So we can write na'am. Na'am. We have written then katabna. So the difference between this and for feminine is the feminine third person plural doesn't have the alif after it, but it has alif. Nam katabna. It tells you here, written them referring to books, because books, letters, makatiba, so it's broken plural, so it's considered feminine, so we use hakit so it's considered feminine singular for agreement purposes, so we write ha. So now katabnaha, and put them. Again, you got to understand that here what we mean, who put them, because we talk about we. So obviously in Arabic, in English, we don't have to write we again, but it's a we here, we put them. So when we write put, we can say wada'na, because if you write wada'a, it means he put. We don't want to say that. We say we put. Wada'na, again, them is going to be ha, feminine singular, because it's referring to letters, which is broken plural. and refers to non-human beings on that table, on the big table. Alal, ala. So that is like the noun, and the table is like the adjective we mentioned before. So we usually use tilka, nazalika, tilka. Why? Because the table is feminine, so this has to be feminine as well. And obviously, it's not going to tilki, tilki. Because why? Because this tilka is indeclinable. It's always like written like that, no matter what's before it. Ala tilkal ma'idati. Because it's like I mentioned, noun and adjective. So we're saying that table. If you remove the alif lam from ma'ida, it becomes noun and predicate. So it becomes that is the table. We don't want to say that. We want to say that table. تلك المائدة. So it's genitive. Why? Because tilka has ala before it, and we said maida is like its adjective. Al kabirati. Kabirati. Kabirati is feminine singular because of the table, and it's the adjective of effectively tilka al-ma'ida. So that's 2. Number 3 is the beggar, sought. Sought means demanded. It's a nice way of saying sought. So I think this is of leave it to you. When you say from me, how do you say from? Min. And yeah, it's going to be minni, right? So you just work out the rest. Number 4, the maid opened. So you open, start with the verb opened. And when you start with the verb, obviously it's always singular. So it's going to be fatahat al-khadimatu. So it's the female servant. So khadima too, because who's doing the opening, the lady, the maid is doing the opening. Maid is like female servant. The door is gonna be accusative because we can't have two subject with one. Well, once we already have a subject, so it doesn't say. Obviously, we can't have two subjects in a case where it says the man and his children stood up. So in this case, man is subject and the children and his children are subject. But here, obviously, that's not the case. So the female servant opened the door. Al-baba is the accusative. It's because it's the object. Sorry, it says door of the house. So it's going to be idafa. So it's going to be without alif lam because the bab is going to be, the door is going to be mudaf. And it's going to be accusative because it's the object. Babal baiti. So again, so as you notice here, when it's the object, only the mudaf is accusative. Obviously, bait is still going to be genitive because mudaf ilayhi is always genitive. Babal baiti, door of the house, and they entered, So it's they is going to be dakhalu, and they entered. Have you been out hunting today? So if you look at one of the questions, it tells you how to say for hunting, right? So if you look at one of the Arabic questions, like exercise 21, so you can do that yourself. We covered the word for hunting. This is number 5 now. Have you been out? So being out is going to be kharaja, and you can apply how do you say it for singular masculine person? You, second person. Then you say no. No is going to be la. I did not. So how do you say I did not? We mentioned that in the past tense, if you put ma before it, it could usually mean not, did not. So ma kharajtu, I did not go out hunting. Then I went to, this is not a go out, this is went. So went is ذهب to the city, into the market. If I just do this quickly, I think this will be difficult. So let's do it. Have you been out hunting? Have you been out? So hal, you could read I as well. I like just using hal. This just personal preference. You could read I as well. Have you been out? Hal kharajta. And these verbs you guys need to know really well, because this is the cornerstone of Arabic, because this is going to keep on coming up. And if you don't know these verbs, you will not progress at all. Have you been out? Hal kharajta. So let's say the. So li is the harf jar for hunting, or to the hunt. Al yawma today. And you say la ma kharajtu. Ma kharajtu. Ma kharajtu. So that's kharajta for you went out, kharajtu for I went out. So that so this is something we need to know. No, I did not go out. So la ma did not kharajtu go out hunting. So again, how do you say for hunting? Let's say the hunting. I went. So you could say ذهبت إلى the city إلى المدينة. And to finish up, you say إلى سوقي. إلى السوق, to the market. So number 6, the sun has set and the moon has risen. So this is a bit of a test for lesson 2. Do you remember what gender is sun and moon? Sorry, they're both different genders, but do you know which one is masculine, which one is feminine? I think, and we just learned the words for rising and the setting. So do this yourself. Muhammad and his son went into the city and came out of it an hour later. So let's do this. Muhammad and his son went out. So kharaja. So it even tells you to use kharaja. Muhammad and his son. So kharaja. So both went out, right? So both are subject. Kharaja. So one thing we notice is when both are subject, you always have wa in between, wa to mean and. If there's no wa in between, there's not going to be two subjects. The kharaja Muhammadun wa and his son, ibnuhu or waladuhu. I'm just ibnuhu because the subject is an noun as well. Wa ibnuhu. Kharaja Muhammad wa ibnuhu. Him, Muhammad and his son went out and went into the city. Or went into the city. Oh, zahabtu, right? Oh, it says kharaju, sorry. Muhammad did, his son went into the city and came out of it. Went in. Oh, sorry. Yeah. So went is zahaba because when you say kharaja, it means to go out. This is coming in. So we're going to use here zahaba. Zahaba Muhammad wa ibnuhu. And came out. So came out, he says use kharaja for just came out. Wa. So if you read just kharaja, now the subject is not mentioned afterwards. And we said that when subject is not mentioned afterwards, the verb has to agree, not just in terms of gender, but also it needs to signify the number as well. So if you just kharaja like that, it would mean and he went out. We don't want to say that. We want to say them, them too. So it's going to be wa kharaja. Kharaja came out of it. So it's going to be minha. خرجوا منها. So from the city, because we saying ha because we're saying the city. Okay, أو مستر هي في المدينة. So ذهب محمد وابنه في المدينة. So Muhammad and his son went into the city. في المدينة. And minha obviously is referring to al-Madina. Al-Madina is feminine, so it's ha is feminine. Qabla, hour ago. Qabla sa'atin. I'm just rushing this, so I'm just making little mistakes, which it's okay to make mistakes, but as long as you spot them and correct them straight away. And came to me straight away. Qabla sa'atin. Sa'atin, obviously, two. There's no alif lam. It's not diptort, so two kasras, right? He struck me. So how do you say to hit? How do you say he hit? And then he hit me. So it's going to be attached pronoun to the verb. So it's going to be darabani. Qabla, how do you say minute? Daqiqa. Daqiqatun. And obviously, how do you say duel? And don't forget, we say qabla. So qabla is preposition of time. So daqiqa, the dual of daqiqa, I'm not going to tell you what it is, and daqiqatun, which you could work out yourself, is going to be genitive because it's qabla before it. The man sat down and drank tea with the sheikh. The men. So here again, just quickly do this because I want to emphasize this point here. So he says, so when we start off with the verb, it's always going to be singular because the subject is mentioned afterwards, which is going to tell us how many people are there. Jalasa, ar-rijalu, the men sat. Sat down and drank tea. It's not shariba, but if you just put shariba, and because afterwards there's no subject and there's no arijal, what would you mean? It would mean he drank, right? Because I mentioned when the subject is not mentioned afterwards, the verb also needs to show what's hidden in terms of the number as well. So it needs to match with the number, because if you just shariba, it would mean he and he drank, but we're going to say and they drank. Sharibu. And one way to think about it is the fact that the man sat down and drank. So here in English, we don't really write and they drank. But one thing you could think about in Arabic is always we say and they drank. It could be he drank and she drank, depending on what came before. But obviously here it's plural before, so it would mean and they drank. Washarabu, the tea. So shayan. The sheikh, ma'al, sheikhi, ma'al, preposition. With is the preposition. Sheikhi. It's going to become genitive because of ma'a. So the key rule is when you start with the verb, or when the subject is mentioned afterwards, the verb is always singular and just matches with the subject in terms of gender. However, when the subject is not mentioned afterwards, the number needs to be hidden inside the verb. Number 10, we returned from the hunt with the minister, then attended the council. So again, key here is we, and again, if you look at then attended, you could say then we attended, right? In Arabic, we're gonna write we attended. They drank the coffee with the woman. I received the guest. Number 11, you could do that yourself. They drank the coffee with the woman. I received the guest at my house. So guest, when you say at my house, you can say indi. Indi would mean at my house. It's telling in the brackets. And my wife, and look here, the fact that it's and my wife received is almost like a new sentence. So here you use one verb and you make yourself the subject by hiding inside. So it's going to be, okay, I'm not going to tell you. And the second one is you're going to again use the verb, but this time the wife is going to be the subject and the female guests are going to be the object. So that's all, inshallah, and have a go at the rest of the questions, and inshallah see how you get on. Same the homework, inshallah. Barakallahu feekum.